I don't mean to do this every episode, but it's just so on point. Can I play you a video I made? Because there is something in this that I think is so important because I know we haven't talked about it yet. I'm going to share this screen. Where are we? So, hang on. How do I make it bigger? Nope.
Yeah, bottom corner of it. Bottom right corner. There we go.
That one? There we go.
Yeah. And compassion is killing us, literally. And this is going to be an uncomfortable reel. So if words easily offend you, I suggest you scroll on. But if you care about common sense and truth, listen up. Yesterday in Victoria, a 15-year-old with violent charges, including armed robbery and threats to kill, was released from remand so he could go on a European holiday with his family. They said they would have to cancel that European holiday if he wasn't released on bail. Contrast this to a Monash University law professor who showed child pornography in a Melbourne classroom and then proceeded to book an expensive overseas holiday. He was allowed to go on that holiday because it was deemed too expensive to cancel. What is going on in our legal system? Let's have a look at just this last weekend. An Indigenous boy was murdered in Morwell at the hands of yet another teenager and knife crime. Jacinta Allen comes out and declares that the machete bins are working, but I guess another boy murdered is just collateral damage. And here's what I find really peculiar. The boy murdered on the weekend was Indigenous, and the two young boys murdered a month ago were South Sudanese. And yet, where's the outrage? Where's Lydia Thorpe? Where's Black Lives Matter? Their own people are being hacked to death by knife crime, but not a word of criticism for the government that's presiding over it and repeatedly letting these bailed youths go on to offend. Let's have a look at Georgie Purcell from the Animal Justice Party that tells us that bail saves lives. All murders by offenders who are out on bail. But apparently, this is what saving lives looks like in Victoria. And no, it's not just Victoria. In New South Wales, a 19-year-old barber charged with a 6-hour gang rape was released on bail. He even got to keep running his business whilst awaiting trial. A man accused of multiple aggravated sexual assaults is allowed back into the community because the courts deemed he wasn't a risk to the community. What the fuck is going on in this country? Now let's look at the US. Irina, a young woman stabbed to death on a bus, was murdered by a man with more than 14 prior arrests. Over and over, violent criminals are cut loose in the name of compassion until someone ends up dead. And in the UK, we've got grooming games of Pakistani men systematically raping young girls for years, and authorities covered it up because they didn't want to be called racist. So imagine that. They let children be abused rather than risk offending someone with the truth. So whether it's here in Australia or the US or the UK, the pattern is the same. Our blind compassion, our obsession with political correctness has created a culture where criminals have more rights than victims.
Anyway.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Like, I can't argue with that. A
15-year-old boy up on charges for aggravated burglary, assault, and threatening to kill was released so his family could go on a European holiday. Do you know what I find really peculiar about this is we had a home invasion in November. We had our car stolen, and I had thousands of dollars stolen of stuff. I then had my car broken into. Same thing. All my gear stolen. You know who can't afford a European holiday? Me. Do you know why? Because my livelihood and the equipment I use for my livelihood was taken from me by people like that 15-year-old who's now on bail so his parents can have a European holiday. If that doesn't make you fucking furious and sick to the core, I don't know what will. That's the world we live in. These are the people who are making these decisions. It's disgusting.
Yeah. This is literally calling good evil and evil good. This is we are literally in a world where where the justice system is genuinely upside down. They punish people that do good, and the police go out there and raid people's homes that have done nothing wrong, whilst releasing and re-releasing criminals for the flimsiest of reasons. Yes, being a violent criminal is likely to interrupt your holiday plans. Newsflash. I don't know how you missed that memo. But yeah, if you want to be a violent criminal, it's going to have some impact on your life. But much more importantly, I think we've found a new segment name. Carly. Carlception. That's what it is. When we're watching Carl, watch Carl.
Do you know why? And look, you're like this in your videos too. Like, you prepare that script and it's a lot more concise than me sitting here trying to recall.
Sure.
And that's why I'm like, rather than me try and like bring up all this stuff I spoke about last week, just watch the video where I pre-organized it. We're about to go up and choose Scoville.
Yeah.
Am I angry about this? I mean, yeah, but I actually have to find the humor in it now because, I mean, I've said my piece, right? You've said your piece. It's not about convincing people like us on the chat. What it is about convincing other people who haven't yet had the experience, right? Like Jacinta Allen, did we talk about this on Wednesday when she came out to finally address the Indigenous boy in Morwell that was murdered? Her opening sentence was, "The machete bins are working." I kid you not. That was her opening sentence.
Yeah.
You're about to front the press over the murder of a child.
There's a murder.
And that's what you say.
Yeah. And we can prove that the machete bins are working because this kid was stabbed to death, not slashed to death. So that's proof that the machete bins are working as planned.
It's just so fucking sick. And I mean, like I said, I'm not trying to convince me anymore. I mean, the whole Georgie Purcell thing, I brought that up for a reason because she's literally like making it her pursuit at the moment in the government to talk about how bail saves lives. Like, you can't make this up. These people are, and look, and then this is why I tied it all into, like, whether it's Abby Chatfield or Taylor Swift or whatever it is I'm talking about culturally. That is why I rejoice about the Taylor Swift thing. I'm like, this death cult needs to be dismantled, and this is how you do it. Because apparently people being murdered and stabbed and assaulted and young girls being raped isn't enough. Like, that's not the wake-up call. What we need is Taylor Swift to say she wants to get fucking married and have kids for these people to go, oh, that's outrageous.
But this is the thing right here. Create a problem. Said problem will threaten society. Introduce more laws that take away more rights for the public from the public for safety. This is the Hegelian dialect. Hegelian dialectic, which is something that everyone needs to know. You always have this in the back of your mind every time a politician opens their mouth. Problem, reaction, solution. Related to this is, and I've mentioned it before, so I'll be very brief, is Rules for Radicals. Saul Alinsky talked about their reaction is our action. And so you don't do the thing that gets you closer to where you want to go. You do the thing that gets the other side to react in a way that gets you closer to where you want to go. And so we live in a world, unfortunately, where our reactions, our compassion is being weaponized. Our reactions are being continuously observed and calculated, and actions are being taken that are designed to get a reaction that gets them closer to where they want to go. In this case, what is that? Well, they want more. They want an excuse to clamp down even more. They want proof of their worldview, which is that white people are the problem. They want to be able to validate all of that. So how do they get the proof to validate that? Well, they have to get a reaction out of us, a race-based backlash against people of color, against new immigrants. How do they get that reaction? Well, create injustice. Create a sense of righteous indignation in people that say, this isn't fair, this is hurting people, there are real victims here. And once they can cultivate that reaction out of us, then we get action, reaction, solution. The solution, of course, being their objective in the first place. So unfortunately, we live in a world where our politicians are so cynical and have so little regard for human life to begin with, that they would view this, and I have no doubt that Jacinta Allen would be quite okay with a certain number of people having to be killed in order to cultivate a situation where she can then have the pretext to push through the laws that she wants to push through. I can find no other reasonable explanation why she would be sitting on her hands this much for this long when we know how to fix this problem. There is something in this that is actually good for her. That's the only explanation in my view.
Look, I agree with you. I don't know whether it's about securing votes or, not wanting to deter from immigration and then, like I said, securing votes. I don't know what it is, but I actually think what it is, it's a managed decline of the West for a reason, right? If we decline the West to a point where, her predecessor, Dan Andrews, can go get in bed with the Chinese, and then all of a sudden we're doing trade with the Chinese and the communists. And who knows? Who knows what their grand plan is? But I will say this, and this is where I wanted to get to the good news, is there is a lot of momentum in Europe. People have had enough. But before we get to that, Cruel Intentions, thank you for the super chat. I have a theory. The last two generations have not had any good pub bands, no good Aussie music culture, so nothing but imported crap. I actually agree with you. And I'm right, like, let me cook on this, right? Let me explain this. Now, I am no Triple J fan, right?
Triple J.
Never was.
Yeah.
I was never a Triple J girl. Triple M, yes, but I've always been somewhere in the pop rock genre. But like I said, my parents are massive musos. Anyway, when you think about when you reminisce on your life, you can usually create like a playlist to that time. Well, I certainly can. I don't know if everyone else is the same, but like, for example, like, oh, that summer, and you remember because you were like listening to that song, or you went to that concert, or you went to that music festival. And what's happened is the music festival culture in Australia has died, and I know why, because it's not profitable. It makes it costs way too much money, and the government, through its red tape, make it almost impossible for these festivals to run a profit. And not only that, the international acts demand such a high price point that it becomes like, that's why we don't have Big Day Out anymore. It's why we don't have Falls Festival. It just became a perfect storm. And so have a think about what actually brings culture together, right? Like if you go think back to the 90s, whether it was Vanessa Amorosi singing Absolutely Everybody, which then became an Ansett song, or it's I Still Call Australia Home, and it's the choir, around the Kimberleys for the Qantas ad, or it's like those funny Telstra ads, right? They were genuine Aussie things, whether it's Crowded House, it's John Farnham. Who is that today? Who is that today? There is no one. Like, don't get me wrong, there is great Aussie talent. And this is the one thing. There is exceptional Australian talent, but it doesn't get airtime because it's not profitable. And also it doesn't serve the purpose. But I actually think this is a greater conspiracy. And again, I'm wearing my tinfoil hat. You don't want people to come together over these moments. You don't want culture. I mean, COVID showed us that. 2 years completely distancing ourselves from each other. Why? Divide and conquer. It's a lot easier to control people when they've got nothing to come together over. You think if you're in any social situation and John Farnham's You're the Voice comes on, everyone will belt it out.
Yeah.
Give me a song that's Australian of the last 15 years that everyone generationally would come together on.
Well, like a true masochist, you are back again to watch another segment of the Oddcast. So at this point, you should probably be subscribing and telling every single person in your life about the Oddcast, because let's be honest, we've got a lot of work to do and we need to get together and suffer through this torture, because there's nothing like fighting against our government with some good mates by your side. So much like a Bunnings sausage, we are going to become a staple in your life, and we'd very much appreciate that you go and support us via the Buy Us a Coffee button or buy some sweet merch. Also very appreciated. And join us next week. We'd appreciate it.